What's up, everyone? We're talking about boundaries today, which I think is so important and very connected to health and fitness, but it's not something that a lot of people talk about, or I think that we talk about enough. It's not even just with other people, although that is a big part of it, but even just with your time, with your work, your energy, relationships, habits, food, like everything. I think there are so many people who aren't struggling with their health because they don't know what to do. You probably know that you should work out and eat better and get more sleep, but the problem is you haven't actually protected the space in your life to be able to do those things.
Yeah, I think this is especially applies to the type of people that we work with a lot. Because they're usually that person that everyone else counts on. And they're responsible, they're reliable, they have a lot going on. They have work, family, kids, clients, employees, whatever it is. And they're usually really good at showing up for all those things. But then they have little issues showing up for themselves, right? Their own stuff is always the thing that gets moved. Work gets busy, the workout gets canceled, right? Someone else needs something. So whatever they had planned for themselves gets pushed back to the side. And maybe they stay up later to finish work. So their sleep gets hit. You've kind of been, if you've been doing this for years, then you may not even necessarily recognize that you're even doing it anymore.
Really been that person most of my life, not in the sense of fitness. I think I've always been very ruthless with my fitness boundaries. Like when I started my full-time job, I'm like, no, like I'm coming in at this time so I can get my workout in. So like that's never been an issue, but it's more of I care so deeply about people. So I'm always willing to sacrifice myself for other people that I care about. But I also realize every time that I do that, I can feel it immediately. I'm more stressed or depleted or energy drops, patience is sort of, or just like it's affecting me in some way and I'm not showing up the way that I want to. And especially over the last year, I've had to be really ruthless with my boundaries, especially with time and energy and relationships and work is a big one too. And so that's kind of like where this idea came from too, because I've been like implementing it a ton. It's helped a ton. I've been talking to our team about it as well. One of our amazing coaches, Kate, like me and her talk about boundaries a lot as well, because she's very similar to me in that sense. And so it's cool to see how much better I show up when I set those clear boundaries. And so that's what we want to get into today.
It always comes from a great place, right? These people are
Mhm.
doing it out of the goodness of their heart. And like, whether you're doing it, Kate, or anyone else that any of our clients are like, hey, I wasn't able to get these workouts in because I had to help my friend do this, or I had to help my grandmother do this, whatever that situation may be. It's because they're a loving person and they want to help other people out. It's just it's wearing them down and it's pulling them away from all the things that is in the future is going to help them be able to be there for all their friends and family. So that's something I think is very important. Like it often gets overlooked, but I think it's a good conversation to have.
Yeah. And I think that's where, like I always tell people, too, it's like, it's amazing that you care so much. It's amazing that you pour into everyone else. You put everyone else before yourself to some extent, but then it's like you are left with nothing and you can't show up for them if you have nothing left in the tank for yourself or your health is declining because you put everyone else first. So it's like, always here, you got to put on your oxygen mask first. It's just a lot harder to actually implement that. And that's where the boundaries come in. Speaking of boundaries, though, and speaking of our episode that we did last week on, or I don't even remember what week it was, but whatever week when we did the habit one, they all blur together. And the habit I realize I do is kind of like you were mentioning, like we check our phones all the time. For me, it's Instagram, and I don't even really go on Instagram. Normally, I'm like, oh, it's all business, it's work. Like I need to go on social media, and I don't really have an issue. Funny enough, with like Twitter and LinkedIn, like I have to force myself to go on just to engage with people. But Instagram is just like, I just go on just to go on. And I'm like, I'm not using it for business. So I was like, that's not really a good excuse. I'm like, speaking of boundaries, I'm going to delete it for the week and see how I feel with that.
Yeah. So you deleted it last week or this week?
Yesterday, that was going to be
Okay.
the first week. Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha. I was going to ask you. So we don't know you. So you're going to report back to us then?
Yeah. If you remind me next time we record a podcast.
All right. I'll see if I can remember that. So what do you think? Do you think this will be one of those things? Okay. So be honest. Do you think this is going to be a real challenge or one of those things that, oh yeah, I'm going to delete this, but in reality, it's not going to be a big deal?
No, it won't be hard. Like I said, I don't really go on it a ton. It's just like I notice myself checking it more than I should. And it's just like taking my attention off of like being present with certain things or just being able to focus or like jumping or just like even just in between stuff. I'll just go on and check for no reason. So it's not like a huge time suck or anything. It's just like annoying. I'm just annoying myself with this. I'm like, I just need to get rid of it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's probably a good thing for all of us.
So I think one of the biggest things I realize about myself is that my boundaries tend to slip when I haven't clearly defined what they are. And I know that's true for a lot of people because we say, like, yeah, I want to work less. Okay. what does that mean? Or if you need to get more sleep, what does that look like? Or even if people just say, like, I need to set better boundaries, you get better at saying no to what in particular. If there's no actual line, you don't have a boundary. And what most people do is they wait until they've already crossed that line to then finally react, or wait, like we were saying, until they're completely exhausted and depleted to say that they need to pull back. Or maybe they're working like 60, 70 hours for weeks at a time and they're burnt out, or they've said yes to so many different things and people and all these events that they didn't really want to do. And now they're just resentful toward everyone and then more drained. And so that's not really a boundary. That's more of just like trying to catch up and control the damage that's already been done.
It's so much harder too to make that right decision when you're already in that state or in that position. And I think the biggest thing here is we've talked about this before is deciding ahead of time, like coming up with a plan, making a plan. So you don't want to decide. We also talk about like decision fatigue and being in those that mood or energy to make these decisions, right? So you don't want to decide, hey, I want to go to bed at 10:30 when you're sitting on the couch watching Netflix, or you don't want to decide, hey, I'm going to go work out tomorrow when the alarm goes off and you're super tired, right? Or you don't decide like how late you're going to go to work when it's already 7:30. You've got like a million things to do, right? So those decisions, you want to make those decisions when you're thinking clearly. It's kind of like a good example is you don't want to go to the grocery store when you're starving, right? You go to the grocery store and start, you're going to buy all this crap that you don't need. Right. And so same time, you want to be in a good mindset for this, right? So, and it fits in perfectly with our philosophy of creating that identity. You want to be that type of person that works out consistently, prioritizes protein in every meal, consistent sleep time, wake time. You just do it. You don't have to decide, hey, I'm going to do this. And then, like I said, be in a good mindset where you're making these decisions. You want to have a clear head when you're doing this. So it just removes all the decision fatigue, I think.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like for me, one of those is a hard cutoff with work from 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. So it's like I have my app blockers, which I talked about previously. It's like all certain apps in my phone will shut off. Like I won't be able to answer messages or do any sort of work stuff. I'm not checking anything. And then I go and wind down for the night. And same with the mornings. My mornings are non negotiable. Not checking my phone at all until 8 a.m. Like I have a whole routine that I'm going through and everything. And I've had to get really comfortable in saying no to people and opportunities that the old me would have immediately said yes to. And those are actual boundaries because I know where the line is and I've defined like the time constraints. And then even it's like every week I go plan out my week. It's like, where am I, adding in social events or, what am I committing to? Like last few weeks, I'm like, nothing on my calendar. Like, and I'm saying no to everyone that says or brings up something to me. So you got to look at the areas where you're constantly frustrated with yourself and ask, what is the actual boundary here? Not like the vague of like, I need to sleep more. It's like, no, when are you actually going to bed? What does the wind down look like? What are the systems like reducing that decision fatigue too, like you were saying? Like what time does work end? Or if you need to eat better, like what foods are not coming into your house anymore? Make it super specific so that way you know whether you kept the boundary or you crossed it.
Right. Going back to like your Instagram. I mean, if you're like, I don't know when I'm going to bed, just whatever, you could be sitting there like doom scrolling for hours. But if you get on there, I don't think it's a horrible thing to get on there every now and then, even if you're just doom scrolling for a little bit. But if you're like, I know I'm going to go to bed at 9:30 and you look up, it's 9:25, you're like, all right, I better shut down this phone right now because I got to get ready for bed. As opposed to, I don't know, I'll go to bed whenever. You're just going to keep doing that. So, and I think it really does help to write it down. It sounds really simple. It sounds almost like too simple. But if you actually have like 3 or 4 things written down that you're committed to, and, instead of like a million things, for example, there's less room to negotiate with yourself. Or even like, and if you're like, I'm not going to write it down, even just talking out loud, hey, I'm going to start going to bed by 9. Or every decision becomes that new conversation with yourself if you have these, if it's too open. Well, maybe tonight I will, or maybe, work is kind of busy. Everybody else is drinking this. You almost like when you open yourself up to having the maybes and the possibilities. And if you visualize that boundary, if there is no boundary, I'm thinking like a soccer, for example. If there was no boundary, you could just kick that ball and just keep going forever and be totally hundreds of miles away from the goal. So, but if you have it written down or you've already made up your mind, you already have it decided, you don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, I highly recommend people write it out. Like even the stuff where it feels dumb, there's a kind of like I was saying, a pattern I get into is like allowing people to almost like walk all over me to some extent, just because like I'm sometimes I'm too kind. Like I don't know, that sounds weird saying that, but it's like sometimes I'm just like always see the good in people. And I'm like, oh, like it was this, or I make excuses for them, and I cross my own boundaries. So like, even with relationships, like I literally have to go and lay out. It's like, these are the boundaries, and like if someone crosses that, it's like they're done. Like that's it, and I need to stick to it. I literally wrote it down. I have it in my notes, and like I haven't pinned because like I need to remind myself of that. And like sometimes you gotta do it. It sounds dumb, but it's like you need to have it defined.
Yeah, that's a really good way of saying it. Whether you want to write it or not, you need to have it clearly defined.
The biggest boundary I've been thinking about lately is energy for me. I've gotten to this place where I'm just not willing to keep myself in situations that are draining me or not providing me value because like I have been working through some health issues and just like really deep in burnout. So it's like I have to be absolutely ruthless with this. And it's been uncomfortable for me because again, like to some extent I do care what people think. Like I do and I don't. But like I want people to perceive me well. I don't want to come across as rude. I don't want people to like be asking like, oh, why did she leave or whatever. But I've started paying so much more attention to what my body is telling me because, like, I'm sure we've all experienced this where it's like you're somewhere, but like every fiber in your being just doesn't want to be there. Like, do you know that feeling too?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Definitely.
Yeah, like you can feel it, and you're just like sitting there thinking about leaving or looking at the clock or just like all the things that you want to do or whatever else like is on your plate, and you're not present. And like you can, I don't know, like you just feel every fiber in me is like I don't want to be here. And so many of us have trained ourselves to override that just because we feel obligated to stay. But I've been doing the opposite and training myself to just trust it and get up and leave.
Yeah, I think that's an important decision too, because we're not saying that like anytime something makes you uncomfortable, leave, right? Because sometimes you do need to be uncomfortable, and sometimes it's probably good. We've talked about being shy or introverted or something like that. If I go into a big room and a bunch of people, and I'm like, oh, this is overwhelming, I'm out. I'm never going to learn how to have those conversations and be a little more extroverted and be able to be more outgoing, right? So sometimes I might have to go, oh, there's going to be people. I'm going to have to learn how to have some good conversations and maybe have to go up to people and talk to them. And that's a good thing. So sometimes you have to have that hard conversation. Sometimes you have to do things you don't feel like doing. But I do think, like you were saying, there is a difference between discomfort that's helping you grow and knowing that something that's just draining you and you're only staying there just because you feel like you have to or you feel like you're obligated to.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Yeah, I don't even know how to articulate. It's like I feel like I'm super hyper aware of how I'm feeling. So it's like, yeah, I'm gonna put myself in certain situations and I'm not gonna leave if like I'm doing it to grow. Or it's like sometimes like I would set those targets, like, hey, I'm gonna go have this many conversations. It's more of a different feeling is when it's just like this is just not like I don't know how to describe it. It's like you just don't want to be there, but it's not like out of discomfort or trying to get out of doing something that's scary. It's more of just like this is just not providing value. It's just like taking away from my growth or what I need right now.
Yeah.
And I've had a lot of situations lately where I've acted on that. There's been a few calls, but like one in particular where I left midway through just because I realized it wasn't a good fit and good use of my time. I was literally just like, hey, transparently, like, this is just not like, I'm not aligning. I don't think this is going to work. Like, I just don't see us working together. So it's like, I'm going to dip. If that's cool to you, he's like, yeah, no problem. So I left. Normally, I would have just stuck through that call and like, already did even like probably like 10 minutes more than I should. And I was just like, so done. Like, I can't do it anymore. Or I was at a Bible study the other week actually, and conversations got a little bit off track. It was getting close to my bedtime. So this is one of those things where it's like, I haven't had a lot on my plate. I have like maybe one or two things that I go to every week. And so I'm like, all right, this is the one I'm going to. Like, I'm kind of forcing myself to like go and socialize it and check that box to some extent and also continue to grow in my faith. But like I said, it was just like getting off track. Like it was awesome. And then I was like, I'm not feeling as much. I feel like I already gotten like what I needed out of it and like felt really fulfilled in that. So I just got up and left. There's another time I showed up for a group for a walk. I was already like, even before I got there, I was like, I don't know if I want to do this, but I'm like, I'm going to go. I'm just going to show up. I did. I said hi to everyone. And then as soon as I got there, I was like, yeah, this definitely is not it. And I literally just left. Like I literally said hi and then bye. And I just left. That one was tough. That was a good test for me for sure. The next time I saw her, that it was tough for me. So like next time I saw that group and that one lady in particular, I was just like, hey, like I'm sorry about the other week. I hope it didn't come across the wrong way. And the funny thing is, she said that it inspired her because there were so many situations where she feels that same thing and she wants to leave, but doesn't have the courage to. And so like that just really reinforced what I was doing and gave me so much confidence because people probably respect you more for honoring your boundaries a lot more than you think they do.
I like that Bible study example that you had because I think there's two ways you like. Let's just say that you want to leave by 9:00. I'm just making up the time because you want to get to bed on time. We don't want to be so strict. We're like, you're having a phenomenal conversation. You're learning so much. You're like, oh my gosh, I gotta leave at 9. I'm just going to get out and leave. Right. Like you don't want to be so strict. At the same time, let's say you're pretty much done. Chit chatting about life, sports, whatever it may be, it's not providing you value, and like, all right, well, it's time for bed. You should feel, because I think a lot of us would be like, well, no one's leaving yet. Maybe I should stay a little bit longer. I feel bad if I'm the first one, or type of thing. So yeah, I think that's a really good example.
Just have courage to get up and do what feels, but like just own it. Be confident in that. And it helps too if you communicate your boundaries up front. Like we were saying, once you have them defined, if you have friends or people or you're trying to stick to your bedtime, be like, hey, by the way, I'm leaving at this time. Or sometimes like on cons, be like, by the way, I have this I have to get to at this time. So that way people know too. And you're kind of setting the frame.
Yeah, the communication is so important, and we'll talk about that. But if you're sitting here and you're like, there's no way I'm just like getting up and leaving something, like, right? If I'm going somewhere, I gotta stay there. I know there are people like, I'm not gonna be the first one. Like, they will just sit it out until someone else is gone. But I think it's good to be aware, just to be self-aware of what is giving you energy, and what is something that, or someone or something that is taking it away, right? Like, which meetings do you finish and feel energized? And maybe you do want to be the last person because you're like, man, I'm just loving every second of this. Or which ones are like every time, like halfway through, like I feel like I need another meeting just to like recover. Who do you spend time around where you are like, this was awesome. Like, I loved every minute of it. And you're like, your battery is full, as opposed to who do you leave feeling like, man, I'm just drained, like emotionally, mentally. So I just think it's good to notice the patterns, and once you are aware of that, then you can start thinking about like, who and what has the most access to me.
I like that question. Like, what too like has too much access to me? Is it work? Is it your phone? Like we're talking about social media, certain people, other people's opinions, because everything that has access to you is taking some amount of your time and energy, and so you need to decide whether that's a trade that you want to make.
So let's take that into fitness, because I think this is where people can immediately start applying to it, right? So environment. I think environment needs a lot of boundaries.
Yeah, I think food with that is a big one. Especially if there's food in your house that you consistently overeat. Like, why are you keeping it in your house? Get that out. Throw it in the garbage. Like, do not buy it in the first place. And a lot of people think is like, oh, like I should be able to have it around and just have discipline. But why? Like, who gave you that rule? If every Tuesday night you're staying in front of the pantry eating half a bag of chips or whatever it is, like you can still have it. Just go get it when you actually want it. Have it when you're out or you're at a restaurant or whatever it is. But you don't need to make yourself fight that battle every single night just to prove that you have discipline.
Yeah, and you really have to know yourself as well. I mean, I've had that mindset where like, you should be able to have anything you want in your house, and you should be able to resist it, right? But there's certain things more than others, but there's sometimes it's just very difficult to resist. And so, like you said, if it's not bought at the grocery store, not brought in your house, then you don't have to resist it because you don't have it around. And I've talked about my damn good philosophy. And if it's something you're just craving and you're willing to get in your car, drive 10 miles, go to the store, pick it up, grab it, and come back, well, then maybe it's worth it that day. But you went through all that to get that. And there's a lot of thought process and decision making that goes into that to do all that. So a lot of times between that, you decide, hey, you know what? I don't really want that. But I think the bigger lesson is just a lot of decision making is really just a lot of discipline, I should say, is really just removing decisions, right? So like I said, if the food's not there, there's no decision whether you eat it or not. If your workout is on your calendar and it's like it's like a scheduled meeting, there's no decision. You just go do that workout. If your phone is charging outside the bedroom, then you can't wake up in the middle of the night and grab your phone and start doom scrolling type of things. Set up the environment that's going to give you the best chance for success, and set it up before you're tired or you're stressed or you're hungry or you're in a big emotional state.
Yeah, social situations are another one, especially when it comes to like, fitness and health. You need to learn how to say no. Just no thanks, I'm good. You don't even need to give them an explanation. You don't need to like do a whole presentation about your fitness goals. Like you don't need to explain all that to them. And you don't need people's permission either. If you're around people also who are constantly pressuring you after you said no, then that's another boundary conversation to have and just probably get them out of your life. Or set boundaries where you don't need to interact with them as much or communicate up front and be really direct with them.
Well, you use the word explain. I think you do need to communicate, but you shouldn't have to defend it. And so I think sometimes that communication up front is so powerful, especially with your family and friends, right? So if you're communicating with them what your goals are, why they're important, what you want to do, what you're not going to do, because that's your choice. If they truly care, they're going to respect that. Most of the time they are. Right? And if people can't respect those boundaries, well, they can't respect them if they don't know they exist, right? So If I'm going to give an example, let's say you're like, I don't want to drink tonight, and all your buddies are going out to drink, and they ask you, and you go out there, and they keep, why aren't you drinking, man? Like, well, I just don't want to drink. They're going to keep bugging you. But if you go out and say, hey, you know what? I'm trying to limit my drinking, or I'm going to stop drinking for a couple weeks. All right, cool, man. No problem. Come out and hang out with us. You don't have to drink, but they know that ahead of time.
Yeah, communication so important. Another big one is work boundaries, especially for myself, for a lot of our clients that we work with too, because I think I could definitely relate to this where like there's not an end to the workday anymore, really. Like there's always another email or fire to put out or something else that you could do or someone else who needs something. And so a lot of times our like unwritten boundaries, I'll just stop working when everything is done. But like you're just gonna work forever. Nothing is ever gonna like or everything is never gonna get done.
Especially with technology the way it is. I think, 50 years ago, that could be a thing where you could shut it down. You go home and like there is no work. You can't do it. You're not at the job site. But now it's like almost a lot of people's jobs, like you can do it almost anywhere you are, and everyone has access to you so easily. We see that all the time, right? And they're like, well, I don't have time to work out. Okay, well, like when does your work day end? And a lot of times they don't know when because they haven't established that like strict cutoff time. And if your work is allowed to expand into an open space, or you allow your employers to have access to you as long as you want, of course you don't have time to work out.
Wish we were in simpler times with all less technology and all that. Like if we could just turn it off. I guess that's why there's app blockers and like the little brick for your phone. But I think it's
I
just
know.
funny.
Working on the farm. Hey, you know what? The sun's going down. We can't see anything. Done. We're
Yep.
out.
Simpler times, man. Sounds great. But yeah, like this is where you have to start treating appointments with yourself the same way that you treat appointments with everyone else. If your workout is going to be Tuesday at a certain time, like 5 p.m. or whatever, it's like, is Tuesday at 5 p.m. Put it on the calendar, set reminders for yourself if you need to. Obviously, like things may happen, emergencies may happen, and sometimes I need to adjust stuff, but like we don't need to be entirely rigid. But we're talking about the fact that some of you have canceled on yourselves 47 times this year and would never dream of doing that to another person. So it's like, why are you the least important person on your calendar? Make it a priority.
I think it's really good to reflect on it. And you don't spend a whole lot of time, but just pull up like the week in review. Look at last week's calendar. Look, don't not look at the week that you had planned. Look at the week what you actually had. Like when did you have to work overtime? Where did your health priorities get pushed aside? Right? What could have waited until tomorrow or the next week? Like what meetings weren't that necessary, but you had anyway? Where did you spend 30, 45 minutes, an hour on your phone or doing other things? And when you're like, oh, I didn't have time to work out, you have to really look at like where your time is actually going before you can look forward and say, hey, this is what I need to do and how to protect this time.
Especially when it comes to like work and time and that those type of boundaries. Highly recommend at some point, even just like every few months, is do a time audit and literally block out every 15 minutes every day and what you did in that time to see where your time is going. Like, yes, it may take a little bit more time up front to gather that data, but it's going to reveal so much of one, your priorities, like where your heart is actually, like where your time and energy is going, and then ways that you can make it more efficient and fit in the things that are important to you. And then another one is boundaries with ourself. I think this can be some of the hardest boundaries because it's within and you're the easiest person to make excuses to or justify anything. Like we always have those justifications going on in our head of like, oh, I'll start tomorrow, or I've had a bad day, like I deserve this, or I'll do this once XYZ happens, or I'll work a little later tonight, I'll scroll for just 5 minutes or whatever it is. Like it's easy to make these justifications. And then the thing that you said was a boundary is just a suggestion.
Again, this is why planning in advance is so important. If you said you're going to train tomorrow morning, like you got to prepare tonight. Have your clothes set up, have your shoes ready to go. Basically, you're taking away any barriers, right? That's going to be in your way. So know what kind of workout you're doing, what kind of program. Have the alarm set. Don't wake up and then decide you're going to do all this stuff because there's a good chance you're going to hit snooze and be done, right? And you're going to miss that whole thing. If you're trying to stop scrolling before bed, don't have the phone in your bed with you type of thing. Because it comes with a self-control. Like a lot of times we think, how is self-control doing this? And it's just very difficult. So if we start creating more of those boundaries there, putting those barriers in place, then it's easier. Get that phone out of there, charge it somewhere else, and just make the boundary easier to keep.
Sometimes I definitely do. I think especially the ones with myself, I think like I get into those justifications easily, and it's easy to just like let things slip over time or just like slowly push it back. It's like I said, I was gonna be in bed by 10 o'clock. Oh, it's 10:05. Like it's fine. But it's like no, like be really clear on that and keep the promises to yourself. But again, like the goal here isn't perfection with that. Nothing is always gonna be perfect, and you're gonna mess up sometimes. That's okay. But it's just like you were saying earlier, bringing that awareness to it, being able to notice those things faster. And instead of crossing a boundary for 3 months before you finally realize you're burnt out, maybe notice it after a couple days or like in that moment. It's like, okay, I'm feeling that thing. Like I'm gonna go and do the thing that I said I'm going to do. And eventually you'll notice it like immediately. Like once you just bring that awareness and you get the pattern of doing that. And then if you do cross it, like don't turn it into a big thing. Just again, reflect on it. What happened? Why did I cross it? Like what came up? What does the boundary itself need to change? Do I need to recommit to something? And then you can move on, move forward.
And we don't beat ourselves up. We reflect on it. And then, like you said, move forward, move on to the next day, or move on to the next step.
Yeah. So I want everyone listening to set some boundaries. I want to start with like a little audit, and we can keep it super simple. Like look at maybe 4 areas: your time, energy, environment, relationships. And for each of those, ask what currently has too much access to me. Maybe it's work has too much access to your time, or your phone has too much access to your attention. Certain foods, too much access to your environment, or certain people have too much access to your energy. Whatever it is, write it down.
Yeah, and pick one. Pick one of those, like just one. What is one boundary that you can set this week that would make a huge difference, right? Make it extremely specific. Not like, oh, I don't want to be on my phone as much. Instead of, I'm going to, make sure my phone is downstairs after 9 o'clock. Or I'm not going to work less this week. I'm going to make sure that my laptop closes at 7, or I'm not going to eat healthier. Well, what are you going to do with that? Well, I'm not going to keep those donuts in the house, right? A really strict line that you can actually follow.
Yeah. And then protect it. And it feels so freaking good when you like have a boundary and you keep it. Even when it's like challenging and you feel that resistance, whether that's externally or internally, like it feels so freaking good. You're like, I did that. Like you feel really proud of yourself and like it feels very aligned and at peace in a weird way. Because ultimately, like people, work, your phone, social media, like it's going to take as much as you give it. So if you don't decide what deserves access to your life, everything else will decide for you.
Yeah. So, what's the takeaway from this episode? It's that boundaries are not selfish. They're how you protect the things that matter most, right? Your health, your energy, relationships, your peace. Ultimately, the ability to actually show up for the people you care about because you're taking care of yourself first, right? Most people don't struggle because they don't care enough. They struggle because they care about everyone else more than themselves. They're not prioritizing their selves and their health. And I think some point you really have to think about and realize that constantly sacrificing yourself is not beneficial to everyone around you, right? It's not noble. So if you don't have your health, you don't really have anything. And sometimes the most loving thing you can do to everyone around you is take care of yourself first.
And if you're listening to this and realizing this is me, my health has basically been getting whatever is left over, and you know you need some support actually changing that, this is part of what we work on with our clients. We do have a few spots open for coaching this month. So if this is something you've been considering or you've been following us for a while and you know you're ready to finally prioritize your health and do it the right way, we'd love to be able to talk with you. There's no pressure. We'll sit down, learn more about where you're at, what you've been struggling with, and what you're trying to accomplish, and see if we can support you. So I'll put that link to apply in the show notes if you want to book in a call with me. And outside of that, if this episode hits for you, send to someone who needs to hear it. Set your boundaries this week, stick to them. I promise you'll feel better. And we'll catch you guys next week.